Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Business and Industry Sector meeting, monthly meeting. We are going to be going through a couple different things today, going through our implementation project initiatives and project ideas, as have been previously discussed in our last few meetings. Just a few reminders with this. We do have for funding on implementation project ideas, we do have a $17,000 sector funds available annually. And we do also work towards an implementation project application anytime we're submitting new implementation project initiatives to the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan. That's one of the things as we're talking through these different implementation ideas that we will want to look at for how we would like to submit them and if there are any opportunities for other sectors within the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan to partner with us on. So with that, I'll hand it to Tanya.
Yeah, so I can share my screen, or if someone wants to go ahead and pull, I don't know if I can share from here, can I? Share my.
I think so.
That's a great question.
I'll
I give
try.
you permission to, but I don't know if I wave my hand, you have it. Yeah, it looks like you can.
Okay, cool. Can you guys see?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So here is our implementation project application and scoring criteria. So kind of how we score it. And so this is what we have to fill out for any of the implementation projects that we want to move forward with, in which then they'll kind of get a scoring or rubric scoring here. And then based on that is whether or not we'll move forward with actually implementing it. So we'll need to fill this out if we want to move forward with the Just Walk. I don't know if we want to talk through details of that. Last we spoke, we talked about hosting it potentially in Corporate Woods with all the different businesses there, with the startup being about 600 to 650 with a renewal, or 200 if we think it goes well and want to keep implementing it year after year. We did talk about how if we want to move forward with this, we would recommend that there be 2 people at each walk, 1 leader and I believe 1 medical lead as well to help lead these walks. And so what we would need to do for this application is provide kind of a brief 3 to 5 sentence description of the proposal project and lead organization. We kind of want to walk through with this what that looks like in terms of our strategies and tactics, which ones does it hit? And then it's always beneficial for us if we happen to be cross-sectorial. So if there's a way that we think we might hit other if we hit other sectors, whether it be Parks and Rec somehow. I was trying to think about that earlier. I don't know if there is a Parks and Rec right around there that potentially we could use. But if, any of the sectors, if there's a way we can pair with them and make it cross-sectorial, then it has a higher pool than if it's just business and industry.
And one of the wonderful things about us kind of hitting the ground running with this Just Walk initiative is that there is already a foundation built in Kansas City with this program that some other sectors are already implementing in places around Kansas City. And so it's a a great opportunity for us to have that cross-sectorial partnership and offering these in multiple locations while also looking for other sectors that aren't pulled in yet to the Just Walk initiative to begin to be pulled into it, if possible.
So looking at the scoring rubric, kind of working backwards here, so we can better see what we're looking at. So does the application align with the KCPA strategies and tactics? So we would write out which ones it aligns with for us. So a 3, obviously a higher score. Yes, it does. Or 1, it aligns with some elements, but maybe not as much. Is it multi-level? So up here is a multi-level. The more we can hit here, the better for us as well. More likely it can be implemented because it's hitting a larger area, not just environment, or not just individual, or not just policy. But if we can hit multiple of them, that will be of benefit. And then, like I mentioned, cross-sectorial, if we can get other sectors involved, that gives us a higher vote as well, making it a higher priority because we are hitting multiple industries, not just business industry.
And with that, with how the Just Walk program is formatted, correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley, but that will automatically pull in the healthcare sector. Isn't there one other sector that gets kind of pulled into that that's already involved?
No, healthcare sector is pulled in because that's the group that got these started, and because of the format of the Just Walk walks, it's built around a brief healthcare topic conversation. So it makes sense to connect with that group. The original application from the healthcare sector included faith-based settings and Parks and Rec. Faith-based settings we haven't found really a faith-based setting that makes sense to implement this, so they're not really haven't been included in ongoing applications for expanding the Just Walk walks. Parks and Rec has been included in some because there was conversation, or an original walk took place at Mill Creek Park, so in conjunction with Johnson County Parks and Recreation. We can include many trails, as you all know, make great walking paths for this type of activity. Although you can do sidewalks, parking garages, parking lots, a variety of other things that don't require a Park and Rec connection. So Corbett Roads, I don't believe is Parks and Rec connected, although it does connect to the trails in Johnson County. I'm not quite sure who manages all of those trails. I assume they go between different jurisdictions, so don't know what that looks like. But if we went somewhere else, because other spots we have just thrown around from an ideas perspective include around the T-Mobile campus over by Town Center. So I think Leewood Parks and Recreation.
It would be
That's
Leewood,
what-
yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking that up.
And it's
It's right there.
Asperia, the Asperia campus. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So that's an option. Or if we're getting closer to Children's Mercies, Kansas location, that's just on the south side of the highway from Johnson
Mhm.
County Park and Recreation paths and park location. So Lee Park's not too far, Row Park's not too far. And then there's a couple of other smaller little parks that connect to the path that might make it easy. The problem is, what's the best location for the most number of people to participate in when they just need to walk outside and go? They can't get in their car and drive somewhere because
Yeah.
that's just going to take away from
Mhm.
their
Yeah.
ability to participate. And their
Yeah,
interest
from a
in
business
participating.
and like employee standpoint.
Right.
And then Lori, I don't know if we were, I can't remember if we touched on this or not. So once this application's complete, we submit this and present it in front of the sector leads for the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan, and they utilize this scoring criteria on whether or not the application and project gets funded. I don't know if I can't remember if we had talked through that or not.
I think at one point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just a side note on the Corporate Woods trail, it can connect to the Indian Creek Trail, which it's about a 4-mile length, which is Johnson County Park and Rec.
So there is a potential to include them, whether it's for
Mhm.
informational purposes or to promote, whether they're involved more than that or not. And that continues to make it cross-sectoral. But because it's business and industry and healthcare, we already meet that criteria. I just think it looks better
Mhm.
when you have more sectors who are interested in participating.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then the last part of this is, are there clear next steps that would continue this work? And like I said, the beauty of this kind of being our first dip in the toe of implementation projects is that this is already located in different areas of Kansas City. So it is moving into those next steps for what was already envisioned, and continuing to hope to move that forward with more sectors involved and more locations. Tanya, is there anything else up on the top part of that application that we need to chat through on regards to this?
Short description, the strategies, if we want to walk through strategies and tactics that it supports, we can do that.
Mhm.
See if I can pull them up here. All right, can you see the strategies and tactics?
Yeah.
Or is it still showing? Okay,
Mhm.
let me switch this. Okay, so I guess we can go ahead and review these like we kind of briefly mentioned earlier, since we're going through them anyways, with strategy 41 being business and industry to encourage employees and their families to adopt a physical active lifestyle through opportunities and incentives.
Which strategy is that? 41?
Yeah, 41.
I'm taking, just as an FYI, I'm taking notes on the original application that I wrote to the healthcare sector to get this started. So I'm gonna go ahead and update that as we're having this conversation, and then we'll share it with the group just for final
Oh, perfect.
review before submitting to them.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that one aligns. I don't know, do we have to write out each tactic it aligns with as well, specifically?
I will.
I mean, at a glance,
Creates and enhance access to places and
say
resources. for
2,
employees to engage.
3, 4.
So we just have to do the overarching. Whoa, wait, you're saying those tactics too? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Which tactics? I'm not going to copy all them. I'll just put
2, 3, and 4 at a glance, and maybe 6.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say
2, 3, 4, and 6.
for sure 6, yeah. Based on those that we'd have leading the walks, yeah.
Strategy 42, businesses should engage in cross-sectoral partnerships. Yes. Tactics 1. Three with the park and rec sector for sure. 3, 4. We might need to look at incorporating 2 as well to develop a communication strategy between the sectors.
Which when we purchase this, don't we partially get some communication aspects in the sense of being able to send out communication from the portal?
yes.
Okay.
Perfect. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. All tactics.
Awesome.
Strategy 4, professional and scientific societies should create and widely communicate business case for investment and physical activity promotion.
Say 2.
Do you feel like it aligns with that one?
Not as well.
No,
Yeah, probably not.
it doesn't work against it, but I don't think it's aligning with it.
Helps it.
Right.
Yeah.
44, promote and support policies that encourage physical activity in the workplace environments. I feel like it's probably not going to align
It's
as
not
well
a
either.
not a policy.
I feel like in terms of next steps, this might be a good one to align with. So once a program like this is established and there are a number of people who choose to participate and really like it, that
Mhm.
can lead to additional policies or practices within an organization that might support making it easier to participate in a program like this.
So that could be good for next steps on strategy 44 is
I kind of feel like it.
specifically when you say especially tactics 2 and 3.
I would say strategy 44.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we can include that as
Maybe even 7 if we somehow incorporate that with the other initiative, the CEO. Maybe an opportunity to link them together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then strategy 45, support the development and deployment of systems that monitor physical activity among Kansas City workers and physical activity promotion efforts in local workplaces.
I don't think that one fits as much. I think
Yeah.
it's more about prevalence than it is about individual participation. So of course we will be keeping track of participants, mostly from a numbers standpoint, but also from communication standpoint, additional information. So they can choose to receive, they can sign up for a Just Walk newsletter that goes out. They can choose to receive additional communications, but and we'll track the numbers of people who participate, but we're really not necessarily tracking this from a surveillance standpoint.
Do you guys ever track like how far was walked each meeting?
Yeah. Well, let me say that differently. That is the plan, but because for some of ours, the ones that we've hosted so far, for example, at Children's Mercy, we're not necessarily tracking the distance because we're having people come and go.
Okay.
We do have the general path, like how far that is,
Mhm.
but we've deviated from the path based on individual needs of the employees who actually show up.
Okay.
And because it's so individual, we don't want that to be the focus. We want people's participation and showing up to be the focus.
If something like this was offered at like a Corporate Woods or something like that, where there's multiple companies, would you track the company that they're coming from to kind of gain some of that information about initiatives that companies are encouraging?
Because that's optional for people to include,
Okay.
we'd love to.
Yeah.
We'd have to lean on the individual and or business contact to
Sure.
help with that. So I'd absolutely be interested in that information. However, I don't want that to be a deterrent to people's
Yeah,
participation.
right.
But yeah, we'd love it. And then we'd love to use that to expand supports for other businesses. I mean, one of the things that would help make this more successful is if multiple businesses were directing their employees to the same walk or the
Mhm.
same
Yeah.
series of walks
Yeah.
across the metro at locations that are convenient to them.
Mhm.
Then it would really be successful. So
Is there any way, so like let's just using town center still as the example, there's several apartment complexes over there from people that maybe
Mhm.
work from home. Getting in contact with the manager of the complex or something and seeing if there's a way to promote this internally for those who have a lunch break and want to join the walk. Does that seem like a feasible thing?
I'm open to all of those great ideas.
Okay.
As you all know, the challenge with a volunteer group is who has the time to go out and do that stuff. But absolutely, yes.
Okay.
The answer. And that's again, Lori, I'm not sure if you were on the call so when we discussed this or not, but I'll bring it up just because I think it's an important factor to consider. One of the things that makes participating in the Just Walk model under Walk with the Doc most valuable is that by aligning with them, we have some liability coverage for participants, meaning as Children's Mercy, if we were taking the lead, we don't have to restrict it to Children's Mercy employees because that's all we can cover. Same thing with Corporate Fitness Works or Garmin or anything like that. So for the modest fee of $650 a year, that helps support that, which I think allows us to expand in ways that meet people where they are versus trying to force people into a method of doing this that isn't convenient for them or creates too many barriers. So yeah, I'm open to all those ideas. There's a library right over by Town Center.
Yep, there is.
A
Yep.
library would be
Ah,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Promote it there, and then maybe, you know,
So depending on the location, you know, again, Town Center versus Corporate Woods, but Town Center, you go into Athleta, go into any athletic, go into Dick's. Can you promote it at those locations to get people who are interested?
Mhm.
yeah.
Can you have on your walk, do you set up multiple pickup points? For example, and then you start at different pickup points around the course. So for example, you start at, and sorry, Lori, you've already said what this campus is, but I can't remember it, but you start on Sprint
Oh,
T-Mobile.
Asperia. Yeah. Asperia. Yeah.
Asperia.
Start on that. Okay, so there's a stop on that on that campus. There's a stop by AMC. There's a stop by the library. There's a stop on in Town Center.
Mhm.
So you have these stops, and people can join you at any point along that path that makes sense for them. And because you have a nice circle, they can start and end at the same spot without having to have everybody join at the same spot. But you let people know where your healthcare conversation is going to take place, whether it's going to take place at the start every time. Okay, so if you want to hear it, you go there or you skip it, whatever, I don't know. And again, that information can continue to be shared among participants as you pick people up if they didn't join you at the front or what, you know, whatever that looks like. But I think there's so many options with this, and it again is what makes the Just Walk model so valuable. We get marketing exposure, we get marketing tools, we can get people's emails, we can use a lot of their materials to drive our programming. They can share it with friends, you know. So anyway, I'm rambling now. Sorry.
Yeah, I like it. I think I like the idea of being able to come and go as you want. The conversation's just kind of ongoing throughout. I think that's a great opportunity, and it gives the healthcare worker, the educator, an opportunity to reiterate things that might have been said earlier on the walk or as you go through, which, you know, I feel like is always a bonus when talking about health related topics.
so we covered the tactics. We also happened to cover next steps, which is great. Cross-sectorial, we mentioned healthcare. Where are we at?
Potentially Parks and Rec once we define the actual location. Once we confirm
Yep.
the locations.
Okay. And then I think the next one would be multi-level. So I'd assume it's individual.
Could be team.
Yeah. Definitely individual.
Team, business.
Yeah.
Would it be built environment potentially with the area in terms of like walking paths?
Here's how I see this, and I'm throwing it out there for discussion. For the actual application, I see individual, interpersonal for sure, and potentially organizing. And then I see next steps as built environment and potential policy / advocacy.
Okay.
So individual is obvious. Individual people are getting more physically active. in terms of organizing, aligning efforts with other businesses who have employee well-being programs to continue to support the creation of environments that make it easier to be physically active. By doing that, as you walk along paths or areas, next steps could include using this group to inform the built environment or design of the space as needed to create more bike ped friendly paths, whether it's expanding connection. So environmental assessments could potentially be done if a need is identified once a group is established. So that could be a next step. And then the policy and advocacy could be both within the business. So advocating within a business to support time for physical activity during work, or rewards for participating in physical activity through the workplace, or ongoing policies within their organization, you know, whatever that looks like. So those are really potential, to me, could be potential next steps.
Yeah.
So it addresses all levels of that system, but it depends on where we are and then how the core work group wants to score it based on where we can hit each level of the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think,
No, I
yeah,
think it
and
makes
that some
perfect
of
sense.
it's almost like next step with like,
Yeah.
I mean, accessibility of spaces. You could take an area that has a lot of tenants, and how accessible is it by bike, by walking trails for people to
Well,
come and go, or is it only accessible reasonably by car?
how fantastic would it be if we were able to measure accessibility for people with physical limitations or disabilities?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then that would lead to advocacy, whether it's with the city or a business campus or something else.
I mean,
To
the infrastructure sector.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Perfect.
I love having stuff for some next steps to keep it rolling.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. What else?
I think other than our 3 to 5 description, we hit it.
Okay, so 3 to 5 sentence description. I'm really just using this a similar, well, actually, let me say this differently. I'm considering a similar description to what we used with the healthcare sector because I feel like they still align. That description is, this project would support continuing and expanding the Just Walk program led by the healthcare sector. And maybe I'll say established by the healthcare sector because we're,
Yeah.
with these funds, we would be able to continue the current walk, and that current walk is the walk that I lead on the Adele Hall campus of Children's Mercy that is open to other businesses. We just haven't gotten the word out about it yet. We're hosting them, but anyway. These funds, we would be able to continue the current walk for an additional year and start an additional walk location. And I can update that once we know what that location is going to be. With the additional location, we plan to coordinate with other healthcare organizations to expand the background of healthcare providers to include those working with adults. We are asking for blank amount of money to support this program. And I think we asked for, I don't know, $2,500?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so then I have it aligns with strategy 20 for the healthcare sector. That's health professionals be role models for active lifestyles for patients. And then we have strategy 41 and 42 for business and industry, which we've already talked about. For the systems, it directly addresses individual and interpersonal and organizing. And then next steps align with built environment and policy. What other sectors would be involved? And I say for this project, business and industry sector will partner with the healthcare sector to expand the Just Walk locations. We'll engage parks and recreation as we confirm walking path locations.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then I have to do what we do at the next steps, but we would align with strategy 44 of the business and industry sector. And then we would hit the other two levels of the system with the potential to do built environment assessments and to encourage policy and advocacy within both businesses, but also the community based on experiences. How's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Sounds good.
Okay, and so amount of funding being requested, $2,500. $250 would be used to continue the current walk for an additional year. $650 would be used to establish a second walk location. And then right now, the rest of the money we could have to purchase water, swag,
Marketing
incentives.
materials. Yeah.
So that would give us, it's $900, $1,100. No. $1,600. Am I doing my math right? That's math in my head. That's a bad idea. Yeah, is that right? 900 and 1,600, is that 2,500?
Yeah, you said
500,
yeah.
2,600,
Yeah, 1,600
1,600.
Yeah.
for
Math in public. It's hard. It's hard.
suddenly like doubt your ability to add and subtract.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, wait a minute. Yes, 1,600. Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
Yeah, that gives us a
Yeah.
decent amount to sort of work with. And then I think we can partner with the Just Walk group that meets monthly. And we can incorporate ourselves into that, begin promoting it, an additional walk location, and then identify what's the marketing that we want to do and who do we want to outreach to promote the walk. But obviously first we need to identify a location. But I think this is a great start for the application. I'll have to do a little more tweaking to those two sections, and then I can send it out to you guys for a final review.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Missy and Tanya, what's the date that you all would need to have it to be able to take it to the core work group?
I need to look and see when.
Do we know the next one? So next Tuesday is the next one.
The 19th.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're probably too late to hit that one. That one probably need to be
Yeah.
decided tomorrow or today.
17th is the
The next-
December one.
yeah.
Okay, we can meet that one.
Okay.
So if we want to maybe have it like by the 9th, when we meet again, the four of us to view it, overlook it, and then we can present that next week.
Yeah,
That works.
my goal is
Yeah.
to get it out to you all as a group prior to Thanksgiving.
Okay. Perfect.
Perfect.
And then any updates that need to be made, we can tweak it and then have it submitted whenever you guys need to submit it.
Perfect.
Awesome.
I like that. Okay.
Sorry, I keep having to mute you guys. My dogs are on like high alert today. They are being really bad. Really bad.
Luckily, I put mine in my backyard because I've seen my neighbor kids now run across my front yard about 8 times since we've been talking.
Well, and my husband took today off for Veterans Day, and so he's, doing things, and he's outside mowing, and we have a border collie that would love to get out there and chase the
Mhm.
lawnmower, but we don't let him because, well, one of these days he's going to get ran over. But and he just will bark like out the door and out the window, anywhere if he hears it. Like he's just nuts. So anyway, yes, that's not really a quiet day around here when the husband's off work.
That's cute.
Did we want to touch on I know we're kind of tight on time. Some of the other project ideas I know that we discussed last meeting was the CEO pledge. That I know we are going to start working toward, but it's going to take probably most of next year to get through and get implemented into Healthy KC and some of those additional platforms. The other two things we had touched on was the champion toolkit and expanding the sports sector, sport equipment donation, either incorporating additional corporate challenge, business, sports equipment donation locations for drop off, or the business and industry sports bin, something kind of similar to creating a little reading library within the greater Kansas City area where people could drop off gently used sports equipment or donations at specific corporations at their workplaces, and then get those redistributed to local schools and organizations that are in need of those materials. So those are a couple of the other ideas in the pipeline. Did we want to I know we have just another minute or two with Tanya, but do we want to touch on any of those today? Any questions or additional
I think
feedback?
the toolkit might be something that takes a little bit of time and work if we're putting several different variables into that toolkit. But I think it's something that kind of like the Healthy KC workplace wellness certification. I think it's something that we'd probably look at potentially annually of what updates we have to it and can send those updates out. So I think it's something that we can bake out, but it will forever change year after year as we see things that work within the toolkit and maybe things that don't work as much and suggestions we get back or whatever. So I think that's a good one to just kind of start and continue to update and add. I don't know how long the CEO pledge specifically would take. I know it wouldn't be implemented until, what was it, September-ish, August, September.
Yeah, so we probably want to get that to the city of Kansas City a little earlier than that for their feedback.
So I think that might be an easy one to start working on to just kind of knock off. It might be fairly easy. I don't know if that has any costs tied to it in terms of.
I don't think so.
So if there's not a cost tied to something, do we still fill out an implementation plan? We can just kind of run with it and go forward.
Yeah, it can just be part of the work plan of this group.
Okay. Perfect. So as far as cost-based programs, that would be the sports equipment with the approaching corporate challenge to expand on the equipment donation that took place last kickoff walk, whether at the kickoff walk, expanding it, or at other events potentially, or opportunities that they may see for that to happen. And then the other is the business and industry sports bin that's similar to like the little reading libraries that can be hosted at different corporations for people to drop off equipment and then get that equipment redistributed, which would be a partnership with the sports sector.
Well, another thought to that, as we were just saying it, I wonder if it works like a little reading library, but maybe it's held at a park and rec location. So kids that want to go there and play, if they don't have a ball, they can get in that bin and get a ball to play. So it stays there and people can drop off, or maybe a business can pledge so much money, we can get new equipment, put it in there, and it's like a little library where when you go there, play with it, but please put it back before you leave. And it always gives kids access at the parks to have something to play with.
Yeah, that might align better with the park and rec department that way, unless we have a way where the corporations are, I mean, it might be also it's eventually corporations, park and rec, several different sectors.
There might be an opportunity for multiple models that align with the same idea. So sports equipment, lending libraries, but the models look slightly different.
Mhm.
So the model could be a little bit different at schools. It could, like you could have literally like a little closet where
Yeah.
sports equipment is donated and then kept and borrowed and returned and whatever that looks like.
Mm.
Again, the school would have to help determine what that's going to look like, but do you use it for before and after school programs? Do families within the school, are they the ones who drop it off after their kids are done with whatever particular sport? And then it just makes it easier for them to maintain practice leagues or recess play or whatever that looks like. And then do Parks and Rec organizations have a slightly different model of that, but similar. So kids either check it out for the season that they're participating in. So Parks and Rec often lead sports teams, whether it's soccer, softball, baseball,
Yeah.
flag football. So do you donate to that? The child can check that out for the season, then it's returned at the end of the season so that there's no financial outlay by the participant, especially if kids are just trying to learn how to play the sport. What if they hate it at the end and then you just spent $150 on whatever equipment never to be used
Yeah.
again? Well, if you can
Try it before you buy
lend
it.
it, just like you
Mhm.
do with the library card, you know what I mean? You go, you turn
Yeah.
in your card, here, I'm lending this, and I have to return it at the end of the year. If I don't return it, I get a fee, $5, whatever. We're not going to charge them for the whole thing. But it's
Yeah.
all done based on donations. Then you might have a model that you can expand, but it looks a little bit different. So like businesses, you know, maybe that's where the drop-off location is, but the employees don't necessarily need to take advantage of that equipment. But now
Yeah.
the equipment is picked up by Parks and Rec or
Mhm.
schools
Yeah.
or whomever has the need. And again, that may look a little bit different. Maybe it goes to a central depository. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. So those are all going to have a little bit different logistics associated with them. But maybe there are opportunities to try different models to see what works. So we've already tried one little model at Corporate Challenge where we already had organizations to donate the items to. I'd say we were pretty successful the first year. Like we
Yeah.
got way more than I expected. It's not a ton. Like you're not outfitting the metro. You're not even
Yeah.
outfitting a school, but still.
Shelley,
Go ahead.
real quick, I agree with your point that trying the different models, and I do foresee the corporate side's going to be more of a collection funneling into the system versus a distribution.
Right.
So I do like the idea, to Tanya's point, of possibly pulling in Park and Rec sector or something like that, where there's a better distribution point. Although I know Tanya gave the idea of like, if the corporation's the funnel in, they partner with a direct school that has a need for that for the funnel out, which could also work. But I agree that the corporate business and industry sector is going to be heavily on the funneling into the program versus the distribution out to.
Agreed.
I just
But
wanted to make sure I was on the same thought
yes. Yeah.
line of thought as
Yeah.
everybody on that. Because I feel like that's going to be where you get the parents that are like, get this equipment out of my house, get these shoes out of my house, get these bats out of my house. But what do you do with them?
All right. Well,
I
I
like
need to hop off,
Okay.
but I think we made great progress. So that was awesome. Getting that
Yeah,
knocked
I
out.
agree. For next steps on the sports equipment, we're looking at like the bins, correct, for collection and distribution.
Yeah, I think figuring out bins, but also how things are getting distributed, like who's picking it up or how's it getting picked up and where is it going, type of thing. Like the logistics, I think, behind it was kind of,
Mhm.
yeah.
Do you think it's best for us to identify 1 to 2 places of collection and distribution potentially for this? We have if Corporate Challenge is involved again, we have that as a collection point. And then you mentioned your work might be interested in a collection point. So we might just need to look at then the distribution
Yeah,
filters.
how it's getting picked up. Yeah, I think that, because
Yeah.
that's easy enough to do. We've got the food drive bins. It's just promoting and marketing it. but yeah, then who's picking it up? And I'm assuming on their end, they're going to ask where it's going or how that's
Yeah.
working.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
think
just
there
thinking
could be
moving.
some opportunity for expanding that within Corporate Challenge and all the companies, and but
Mhm.
that logistic part about who's picking up the bin and who's taking it where and when, I think can be the part that needs to be worked out before.
Yeah.
Trying to expand it further into Corporate Challenge. I mean, you could have like, how the Community Blood Center has a blood drive,
Yeah. Bye, Tanya. Yeah.
a blood drive competition. It could be a little competition.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
You know how Corporate Challenge is.
You love
Everything's
love
a
our
competition.
competition.
Everything's a competition.
Yeah, I like that idea. The reason I was kind of pushing this was with it being the end of the year. Shelley, I can kind of work on putting together, or however you want to do this, an application process for that as well, to get the funding for the bins through and kind of get that through for that final December meeting as well.
I think that would be great. I think our biggest challenge here is coming up with what's the budget for this?
Mhm.
Because what do we need the money for beyond the bins? I sort of think, what if we paid, I'm going to say mileage or a courier service or something from the drop off? So as we're trying to determine the model, what are the
Mhm.
costs that are going to be the hang up to even try this out?
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Yeah.
think distribution is potentially a hang up. We don't know. Maybe it'd be easier than we think, but if we
Yeah.
built money in to cover someone something, picking it up and delivering it to wherever the end location is going to be, I think that would be helpful for this implementation project. And then the cost of the bins obviously is going to be helpful. And we talked about both bins and nets. So as you capture balls,
Yes.
like basketballs, volleyballs, soccer balls,
Mm.
whatever, if they've been used and are blown up, they're going to be super hard to put in a box. It'd be much easier to put in a net.
Yeah.
So we could do, like as we build out the budget, what's the cost for some of those things? And then I think our other,
And I can reach out to Chad. We had talked about, Lori, the cardboard trash bins that we use at
Mhm.
Corporate Challenge, using those and getting some like marketing for the front of it so that, and then using nets
Mhm.
instead of sacks so that people don't mistake them as trash cans.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and build in some marketing funds too for making a sign or whatever you
Yeah.
need to.
yeah, I think that's a great idea as well.
Yeah.
And whether that marketing could also include whether it's a sticker. I don't know whether putting a sticker or having it printed on the bins is going to be cheaper, but having
Mhm.
those bins clearly marked, or maybe they're just a different color so they don't look like every other white bin out there that people think is a trash
Yeah.
can, regardless of the logo that's on the outside.
I think it could be valuable to put in the marketing budget a feather flag that goes with it, because if we're talking about using these bins and moving them around, having
Oh,
some
yeah.
sort of a marker for easy identification could
Mhm.
be really valuable.
And how do you
And
see it in
so,
the crowd when people are
yeah.
standing around the bin?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
'Cause
think
if it's,
getting a
it can
KCPA
be,
feather flag could be really good.
yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. It can
Is good.
definitely be mistaken for a trash can or a recycle bin or
Right.
something else besides what it is.
Right.
Okay.
So I love that.
Yeah. Okay. I can work on getting some of that pricing and connecting with you on that and what all we need for the application for it so that it can also be presented at that so I have the hiccups at that December meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be fantastic. And then pulling in Parks and Rec. And again, we can even have one-off meetings, Missy, if we need to
Okay.
because generally the process when we're engaging other sectors, in order to demonstrate to the core work group that it is truly cross-sector, having the sector leads from the other sector support and talk about it is key as well. So we may want and or need to have a meeting with the sector leads of any other sector we want to be involved, whether it's schools or Parks and Rec or anything, depending on what model we want to try to lead or who might be interested in helping to champion a model in their location. We should probably meet with them before that meeting as well, so they can say yeah or not sure now is a good time for that, whatever that looks like.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. It's Allie and who's the other sector lead with Allie on that on Park and Rec?
Jen, it was Jen.
Jen.
Casey Mo.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Great. Hold on,
Great.
let me
Yeah.
see.
We'll meet offline about it a little bit and get that rolling forward.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna end the
Okay.
recording here.